Welcome to part 3 of this Gibson SG Special Limited Edition refret. We're just ready to do the refret now. In the last video you seen I cleaned up, well I fixed all the chipping on the fingerboard and cleaned it all up and sanded it all ready for the new frets, and I'm going to show where we are now. There's a couple of tiny chips still left in there, but absolutely nothing to worry about now. I'm going to show where we are. I'm just going to come down the length of the fingerboard there so you can see. See the slots now are all nice and clean. I'm going to move it gently, then stop, just so you can have a look, quick look. And there you go. The fingerboard's been smoothed off. It's absolutely smooth. I went with 400 grit sandpaper to get the radius. Then I went over with 240 grit sandpaper just to get it all level, and finished off with some 400 grit just to get it nice and smooth. The ebony itself is really quite brittle, it's really quite hard, so I expect it's going to be a bit of a bitch to get the frets in. The radius was more of a problem than anything else, because when I measured it with my radius gauges it was closer to 10 than 12, but by rights it should be 12. So I've decided I'm not going to glue the frets in for one reason. If I glue them in, they stay set, and I do it with a 10 radius, they're going to be sticking out, not in enough at the ends. So I'm going to go in with a 12 radius caul to press them in. Then I'm going to use a 10 radius caul because that'll press them in, but the middle will be high. Then I'm going to go and press again with a 10-inch radius caul to press down the middle. The frets are going to hold in absolutely fine, it being ebony. I've decided I'm going with Boston brand fret wire. It's 18% nickel silver, which is quite hard. It's long lasting. It's higher than I'd actually normally like to use, but it's going to be good for this because I'm going to have a fair bit of levelling to do afterwards. So I'll be taking 0.2mm off anyway. So going with a fret, it's going to be about 1.2mm high and 2.7mm wide. The fret's going to be long lasting, long wear, hard wearing. It's going to take me longer to level and recrown them. But it's going to be worth it in the long run. There's a lot more hours in this than you might expect sometimes. With me using a harder fret wire, it takes more work. To also recrown and polish, level recrown and polish there's a good 6, 7, 8 hours in that. The actual fixing all the chipped areas and that on the neck has also taken 5 or 6 hours because it's a lot of work. So that you can understand and appreciate this, you're probably looking at 15-20 hours in a basic refret. Sometimes you get it done in 12 to 15 hours depending on the guitar. Fenders tend to be easier than Gibsons because Fenders you can pull the neck off. But that said, we're going to move on now to getting the frets in. I'm right ready for that. I've cleaned the fingerboard. I cleaned it with just some, what do you call the gubbins? Can't remember what you call it. I use Zippo lighter fluid, which is naphtha. That's the stuff. I normally go with naphtha because it's going to dry it up. Dry the top out a little bit, get rid of any grease in there, gives it a good clean, and you can see we're all taped up. We're now ready to go with the refret. So I'm going to get the jig, I'm going to get the fret press all set up. I'm going to do it 2 ways on this. I'll explain more about that when I get to it, because this being an SG, we're going to be able to get right into these corners. If we're going at an angle, instead of going straight, we're going at 45 degrees, we'll get all these frets pressed in with the fret press. It's what I like about SGs because of these cutaways here. So I'll explain more about that in the next part of the video, so stay tuned. I will be back shortly. Welcome back, fret friends. Right, you'll see here I've got the camera pointing towards the fret press. I don't have a caul in there at the moment. There's a reason for that. I'm doing this a slightly different way today, because even though I measured the radius and it should be 12 inches, a 12-inch radius, which it more or less is, in some places it looks nearer to a 10. So I'm going to do something that I watched Dan Erlewine from Stumac do the other day, and what he did, he used 2 different cauls when pressing the frets, and he used a 12. Well, I'm going to do the same thing, use a 12 and a 10. So what I'm going to do is, I've got my frets pre-cut, but actually cut longer than they need to be. I'm going to put in the 12. All this matter of this is doing, all I have to do with this is just slide it across. The guitar's level, slide it across, make sure I'm lined up. I'll take a fret, and I'm going with 2 different ways. One, I'm going to go with the 12 first, and the 12 will press the edges in. Then I'm going to come in with the 10 and the 10 will press the middle down. So it's just a matter of just getting it in there, pressing in, removing this caul, putting in the 10, and again pressing in. That fret is now in. Stick the 12 back in, get the next fret lined up. Now when I come across to do my frets at the end there, it'll be slightly different again. I'll show you that when I get to it. I think we're pretty good there. Should have put the fret in. You see, I'm not gluing these in. I normally would glue them in, but because I'm going with two different cauls, there's going to be too much faffing about with gluing them in. It's going to hold anyway. I just need to go a little bit more. There you go. Should be good there. Here's the 12. Back to the 10. And there you go. That's how I'm fretting this guitar. Normally I come along and I snip these off one at a time, which I'll get my fret cutter to show you where we are. Just nip these ends off. You don't always have to glue them in because the fret slots are 5mm wide and the tangs on this fret wire are 5 points, I think it's 5.5. It's going to be absolutely fine. I'll come to the levelling and everything, sort all that out later. So there you go. That is how I'm fretting this SG. It's going really, really well. Nice and simple. For frets, you don't need gluing in. You don't always need gluing in. They're going in absolutely brilliant. Let's just have a zoom in, show you where we are. You'll see I got the fingerboard absolutely super smooth as well after I'd fixed all the chipped areas. See these chipping areas, there's no chipping on this at all now. They're going in absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to nip on with that. When it comes to doing the frets at the far end, at this end, I'm going to have to turn this caul around. It's going to go at 45 degrees and I can then feed the guitar in this way at an angle. So I'll show you that when I get to it because I've never done it before. It's just something I thought of the other day. So I'll be back again with an update shortly. Welcome back, fret friends. As you can see, we're at a completely different angle. I've turned the caul press 45 degrees so I can use the arc of the cuts in the SG to be able to get to the last few frets, and I've had to do the last 3 this way. So I've got it at 45 degrees, I've got the caul in there, I've got the fret tapped in, and this is the last one. I've never done this before, it's something I thought of the other day. And that's it, we're just ready to press this last fret in, and there you go. That's in on the 12 inch radius, and we're just going to go in now with the final 10. And that is the guitar refretted. I've got Michelle, my wife, helping me here, holding the guitar for me. It's not balancing itself, it's not some kind of hoodoo magic I'm using. And there you go, final fret. And that is it. The frets are all in. And there you go. That's the frets in. We're now ready to get it back on the jig and we'll get them all levelled, beveled and recrowned and polished. I'll be back later with more updates. And here we are with a closer look at the frets now in. I've not checked them for level. I'm not even going to bother because they're going to want levelling anyway. That's the frets now in. I'll try and give you a nice close look there. Working absolutely beautiful. I've not glued them in. I normally do glue them in, but because we're only got a 0.5mm fret slot there, and I think the kerf on these tangs on these frets is 5.6. Could be wrong. Which ones have we got? 058, 058, 2.7. Right, no, the kerf is the same, 0.5mm, 0.5mm. Well, that's absolutely fine. The tangs are going to be wider than the actual kerf of the tag itself, the actual barb bits, so they're going to sit in beautiful. Absolutely chuffed with that. Say, once that fingerboard has been oiled, it'll be beautiful. So next part of the job will be to get this on the jig. We'll get the edges beveled, like so, 35 degrees. We'll then get the frets levelled. Once they've been levelled, then we'll get that crown back in, because when we're levelled them we're going to go slightly flat, then we're going to get a crown back in, we'll recrown them, and then it's just a matter of getting them polished up. You know about the work, you check all my old videos, this kind of, the work is all explained on there. Really pleased we have a refret's gone. We'll get it all jigged up, and we'll come back with another update as and when. Welcome back to the video series on the Gibson SG Special Limited Edition refret. And as you can see, we've got the guitar now back on the jig. We've got the dials zeroed out. We're now ready to take the edges off the frets, file them down close to the body edge. Then we're going to put the bevel in there using the proper tool. For instance, got the 90-degree file there, which will, in one stroke, we'll remove the edges of the frets. Then we'll go across with the 35-degree edge and we'll put the bevel in there. Again, long strokes in one direction. You will notice we've got the fingerboard, well not a fingerboard, but we've got the guitar masked off, so when we don't cut in to the rosewood. Once we start hitting this tape, masking tape, we know we've gone deep enough, and we'll finish the rest by hand, because we don't want to be cutting into this rosewood. We've put tape at the end there, so we don't want to cut, so we don't cut into the headstock like so. It's quite a delicate process, this, also brutal at the same time. I'll be doing both sides. We want to get as flush to the fingerboard as possible. Then we want to get that bevel, 35-degree bevel on both sides. Once that's done, we can move on to the levelling, the recrowning and the polishing. It's a long-winded affair, this job, this part of the job. It takes anything from 4 to 6 hours to do the whole lot, including the polishing. It all depends how much you've got to trim the frets once they've been levelled, and how much you've got to recrown. I'm not going to film everything because I seem to be filming everything at the moment, and filming stuff takes half the time. I've got many videos showing you how I do a refret and how I do the recrowning and the polishing and the beveling and all this and that. So I'm going to actually crack on with the work, and I will come back when there's a major update. I'll probably come back when I'm ready for polishing, because like I say, it's a long-winded process, and it's better that I get a spurt on and get this done rather than keep coming back every 20-25 minutes and showing the progress. You don't need to see the progress. We already know that the neck, we remove the frets, we put the frets back in, we've filled in all the chipped areas. We know the neck is in beautiful, or the fretboard was got into beautiful condition for we refretted it. So I'm going to come back again when there is another major update. Like I say, I'm going to get the edges done, I'm going to get the beveling done, I'm going to get the levelling done, and then we'll move on to the polishing. I'll be back again later. And there we are, we're back. I've moved on just a little. I'm going to zoom in, and you'll see I've now got the edges beveled. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more so you can probably get a better view of that. See the edges here going that way and that way. We've got the 35-degree bevel there. I've then been down, because we've got it so close at the edge, I've then been down with a hand file, a number 3 cut Swiss file, and all I do is just go down the side just to remove any burrs we might have sticking out over the edges, because we don't want anything sticking in the guitarist's fingers when he's up and down the neck. And that's absolutely beautiful. We'll just give and that's it. We've got all the burrs removed from both sides. We don't want to be cutting into the rosewood, we just want to be taking off them little burrs off the edge there. And you'll see there that now I've got all these beveled edges done. Oops, I didn't zoom out, I meant to. What I've just done there is I've gone down with a number 3 file. I don't know if you'll be able to read it on there. It's a Swiss file, Barco. It's a number 3 cut. Very fine file. And what I do is, once I've beveled these edges, I've got it all filed to the edge and I've beveled them. What I do is then I just come down with a hand file, just gently like so, and just take off any extra burrs I've got on the edge there, and I feel around, and it doesn't feel like there's anything. Any scratches I've got on the edge of this ebony, I called it rosewood before, it's ebony, we can just polish that out, no problem. Just a little bit of oil on there, you won't even see it. And all we're going to do is we're just going to go by hand, just remove these burrs at the edge. Make sure nothing untoward is going to be sticking in the player's fingers, and that's it. And at some point We'll also go with a hand file and remove these burrs off the top, but once we're ready to get into the polish and that sort of thing. So what I've got to do now is I'm going to wipe the fingerboard down, clean it all up. We're going to do a fret. We're going to do a fret level now. Now it's a brand new frets on a brand new board. I'm going to get it all taped up. So I'm going to take some masking tape. Got various widths of masking tape. This is 16mm. I've got 25mm and I've got 6mm. We're going to mask up the whole board. We're going to make sure we're still zeroed out on the dials, which we are. Absolutely beautiful. And we're going to do a complete fret level. So, you already know about this. I'm not going to show that part of the work. I'm going to get them levelled and then I'm going to move it over to the polishing table. And on the polishing table over there, we're going to get the frets recrowned and polished. And here we are back briefly with the Gibson SG limited edition special. Not only have I beveled and levelled the frets, I've now recrowned and we're ready to move on to the polishing stage. I just wanted to come back and just zoom in slightly, just show you where we are. You can see 2 days this has been on the neck jig and we're still zeroed out on the dials. All the frets have been done. I used various files for recrowning. The main recrowning I do with a free edged file with ground edges. I do it by hand to get that, remove that flatness and get that arc back in there. It's called the radius or the curve or the crown, whichever way you want to look at it. I tend to use this. I finish off with this, which is from Luthertech. It's not from Luthertech, it's from, is it Luthertech? Tone Tech Supplies in the UK there. It's got a 3mm side and a 2mm side. Grooved, it's slotted. Now finish off and remove any burrs with that. And for those I can't get in at where the horns of the body are, I'll go with a smaller Stumac type affair with the 3mm head on there. So we've got them all nicely rounded. We're now ready for the final polishing. The final polishing is going to be easier done over on the other bench. What I'll also be doing is I'll be taking my flat file, and if you just want to come in and have a look, I'll be also just taking off these burrs off these edges where the bevels are with a flat file. Once that's done, we'll get on with the polishing with 4 different grades of sandpaper, which will be 1000 grit, 1200, 1500 and 2000 grit. And we'll finish off with the finest steel wool. Now once that's all done, we're all highly polished, we can remove all this tape, get the new nut fitted and we can get the guitar set up and ready to go back to its owner. And here we are. Gibson SG Special, limited edition. Did I say it was a 2005 model? Don't remember off the top of my head. On the polishing bench, we're now ready to do the final polishing of the frets. Now, I've already been over the bevels of the fingerboard with some 800 grit paper. The reason I do this is, what I want to do is, all I'm doing is going over the bevel like so, just to smooth off these beveled edges, remove any burrs, and to slightly rough up the frets a bit. I also go across the whole fretboard lengthways to put tiny scratches across each fret this way. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to polish out all those scratches using 4 different grits of paper. 1000 grit, 1200 grit, 1500 grit, 2000 grit. I'm doing frets basically this way, lengthways across the fret, not lengthways across the guitar. Get them all up to a high polish. Once that's all done, we'll do a final polish with some super fine steel wool, and the frets will be complete. Once that's done, we'll get the nut on there, we'll test the nut with the strings on, we won't glue it in just yet, and we'll basically set the height of the nut correctly. We'll glue it in, get some strings on, set it up, and that will be that. So now we're getting to what I call the, it's not so much a critical stage, but this is the real business end here, because this is where we get everything looking cosmetically superb, and this is what takes the most time, believe it or not. It can be a long-winded process. It takes a couple of hours to get it right, but it's so worth the effort. Once this is all done, I'm going to come back with the final part of the video, and we might be a little bit in between actually saying that, where I'm going to place the nut in there. show you how we're going with the nut, and that will be it. So I'm going to keep this part of the video short. I'm going to crack on with the work, and I'll be back with a little update sometime later. Right, good day friends. Just about finished this Gibson SG Special Limited Edition. I've just come to show you, it's got, I've just come to show you how I cut the nut or fit a nut. And this has got a really weird nut. It's like an Airvarner CTS compensated tuning system, and it's like a ridged nut, and it sits, you've got a normal nut, which is, imagine like that, but it's got a ridge on it that sits over the fingerboard, and it's compensated, but which means basically some parts of it are cut in, so the intonation marks are set a little bit further back than normal. And I'll tell you something about it, I didn't realise they're 32 quid. If I would have known they were 32 quid, I'd have took my time a bit more cutting it. Not that I've cut it wrong, it's just if I'd have messed up on this, it'd have been 32 quid to replace it. What? So I'm going to turn the camera around and I'm going to show you and explain a couple of things. I'm going to explain how and why I put guitar nuts on this way. And I think that round about there we're about right. So just bear with me while I set the camera, because I want to lock it in. Right, we're locked in there. Now you'll see, there's all strand ends on the strings here, and I'll explain for why in a second. Let's just zoom in. This is your nuts, right weird affair. Now the guitar's got new frets, it's all ready to set up. What I tend to do is, any old strings I have knocking about, I save them. And this is a 4610 set. It's not the gauge that's going on the guitar, but the reason I put these, the reason I save them is, when I'm setting up a guitar and cutting a nut, I put old strings back on the guitar. Because that way, I'm not going to knacker the new set. Here's a new set. Now this is having 1156s on. You're thinking, well, if you're cutting the slots 1046, how are they going to fit? Well, I actually don't do that. I actually cut a little bit wider. I'm going to explain. I've got a set of Hosco nut files. I'm just going to put them here in order. And there's a set of 3 here. There you go. And this is, it's a 1046 set. That's got a 10 that side, 26 here, so that's first and fourth string. This has got a 13 and a 36, that's second and fifth string. And this has got 17 and 46, that's third and sixth string. So we cut the slots accordingly. Blah, 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 blah. You're following this, really, really simple. So this one, for instance, a 10 and a 26, we'll cut the 10 on there and we'll cut the 26 there. But what I do is, if I'm cutting a nut slot, for instance, and I need it to be wider, instead of just cutting straight like so, I actually angle the file a little bit, and you do it a little bit at a time. And I'm going to show you basically how. I mean, this slot, for instance, is going to be, we're looking at the fourth string, 11, 14, 19, it's going to be a 32. So I tend to take a 26, for instance, and I'll cut my groove, and I'll cut it horizontal, then I'll just angle it a little bit backwards towards the tuners, angle it down a little bit, and also as I'm carving, I'll carve that way and that way, just to flare it open a little bit, just so it takes a wider string. And I'll do each 6 individually, one at a time, not cutting away too much material. And once I've got it where it needs to be, check the tuning. We're just about there. Then I'll take my feeler gauge and I'll go in. I always go with a 0.4 first, 0.4 millimeters. I don't know what it is in inches. I don't do inches. I leave that to the Americans. We do millimeters here in England. And anyway, I'll take a 0.4 and I'll get a twang. And it's just buzzing, which is perfect. Then I'll take a 0.3 because I want it to be no less than 0.3. You could go on the I strings, you can go a little bit more. So I'll then take a 0.3 millimeter feeler gauge. Take my word for it, but I'll show you anyway. People have been calling me liars on YouTube. It's saying, oh, why don't you just say it? Saying, take my word for it. I never trust a luthier that says, take my word for it. Arseholes. Anyway, so here we go, 0.3. I can see a tiny gap under there. Just buzzing. That's perfect. So I've cut all the slots to the depth they need to be. What I'm going to do next is going to remove all the strings because we're going to put the proper gauge strings on. But what I'm going to do is I'm likely going to remove the strings completely, and I'm going to shave the top off this nut because it's way too high. I could leave, I'm thinking maybe I'll leave the grooves in there. But does it look too untidy? I always like a nice trim nut carved down. That's a pain in the butt about cutting a nut. It's not a 5-minute affair. It's why we charge 30 quid for cutting a new nut on a guitar. Because this has already taken me 25 minutes, and it's going to take me another 25 minutes at least to carve the top off this and restring it. So it's an hour job cutting a nut. It's why hours work 30 quid. So when you go to a guitar tech and he says, oh yeah, we put my new nut on there, mate. Yeah, we'll do. How much? 30 quid. What? You're only putting a nut on? No, you're not only putting a nut on. You're cutting in, you're shaping it, you're gluing it in, you're setting it, and you're getting your strings all set up. Nothing in this game, guitar tech and repairing guitars, is easy. It's easier to build. I'll tell you that for nothing. So there you go. It's not a complaining video. That is how I cut a nut. It's why I use old strings. Maybe I can use these strings again. If not, I'll just bin them. I'll get another guitar in with a set of strings on it coming in soon, and I'll just save that set. I've always got 2 or 3 sets of old strings saved. So just a little tip for you there. Don't always chuck away your old strings because they will come in handy. What I'm going to do now is, like I said, I'm going to take strings off, I'm going to carve this nut down, I'm going to put the new strings on, make sure the slots are wide enough for the new strings, and that will be that. Good day, friends. It is a good day, and the reason it's a good day is it's one of my favourite parts of doing a video, and that is when I've completed the guitar and it's ready to go back to its owner. And this guitar has been an absolute pleasure to work on, and I'm just going to lift it up and show you. Gibson SG Special 2005 model, limited edition, ebony fingerboard. Look at it. Got some great upgrades on this. I've just had this plugged in and I've been playing this, and it is beautiful. I've never liked SGs in my whole life as a guitar player from the early 80s with concrete socks and everything. I got to play Gibson SGs early doors when Heresy came to start rehearsing with us. My band being Concrete Socks back in the 80s. Heresy come and rehearse with us for a couple of years, and their guitarist had a SG, and I didn't like it. I just didn't like the feel of it, didn't like it. And I've had this, and I like them that much now. I've just gone and bought myself one. I've not bought myself a Gibson, I've bought myself an Epiphone, Chinese Epiphone, 2008, the G400 model. I'm going to upgrade it with Tone Pros, and I'm going to upgrade it with Black Grover or Black Goto tuners. I've got some new pickups to go in it. I've got new electrics. I've just ordered some Mullard mustard capacitors, new old stock from the 60s to go in it. My favourite capacitor for tone. Forget your Sprague orange drops, they're nothing compared to Mullard mustards. But that said, so I've got to bought myself one. I'm looking forward to that. But this, let me tell you. Well, let me tell you about the upgrades it had before I got it. Pickups, I don't know what they are. Goto Magnum tuners on there. Great tuners, about 70 quid a set. I don't know what. This is probably an ABR, could be Tone Pros, I don't know. It's probably an ABR bridge. It's got DiMaggio strap locks on there. Well, so let's see what I have done to it. I've been through electrics, everything, nothing wrong with them, we're absolutely fine. I have refretted this, and I've gone with medium jumbo to jumbo fret wire, around about 2.7 millimeters wide. I think it's something between 1.2 and 1.4 millimeters high. Well, what I did is I've lowered it down to about 1.2 mil. Look at those. Zoom in on that and look at them frets. I'm not going to show you the whole lot because I've shown it before in this video. It's a long video. And we've also gone with an ear Varna compensated, whatever it means, nut. You see the strings are offset there. Very strange, but it's to do with intonation. It's a pain in the arse. I've carved it, shaped it any way you want it. As long as you love it, it's alright. I've carved all that, got it alright, got the action right low on the nut end. Let's have a quick look here. Look at the action there. Can you see that? You can see Joseph Prince in the background. Praise the Lord. Action above the 12th fret on the low E, 1.75. Action with bottom of the string to the top of the fret on the 12th fret on the high E is 1.5 millimeters. That's all recommended. I've set the bridge, I've set the pickup height a little bit low on there, but it's because it's bent. Set the bridge height and everything. The guitar plays like a dream. Ebony fingerboard on this. Tuned down to C. Strings we've gone with are Richard's favourite XLs. I buy XLs. 1156s. Absolutely beautiful. Got it all tuned down, so you stretched all the strings in. I shouldn't be playing this. I don't normally play an owner's guitar when I've done the work on it because it's their privilege, but I'm just going to twang a chord or two. Going through my Yamaha THR-10X. What I'm going to play for you here. Bit sloppy playing there, just got up, blah blah blah, but sounds absolutely amazing. I know Richard is going to be over the moon with this, so without further ado, without prattling on too much, it's been a thoroughly enjoyable experience doing this guitar. I know it took a while, but that's alright. It was never a rush on this job. Beautiful guitar, it's battered, it's bruised, it's knocked, it's dinged, it's donged, it's cracked, but it is structurally sound. It plays wonderful. I don't think I've put any extra knocks in there, I don't know, I won't charge him for them. And there is the guitar, an absolute beauty of a Gibson SG. I love it. I know he cherishes this guitar, he's going to absolutely love it when he gets it back. So that's it, it's all done. Project over, really enjoyed it. I've got lots more work to do, so I'm going to crack on. I'm going to move on. What a great project this has been, really enjoyed it. But as always, it's come to an end. So until the next project, my friends, my fret friends, be good to each other, and I will talk to you soon.